and they can be put to death. That's the thing. Fight against oppressors, kill them. Don't hurt innocents. If you're not Muslim, you can't be innocent. If you refuse Islam, you are an oppressor. And Muhammad made it clear that they are justified in killing you. Do all Muslims follow this? No. Did Muhammad teach this? Absolutely.
Maybe the reason these people act in his name is because, unlike I say, terrorists and Muhammad are one and the same. See, maybe the reason for pipe bombs and suicide vests is to fulfill the teachings of Muhammad, just like the rest.
So it's no secret that we've done a lot of work on Islam here at Louder with Crowder. And the biggest YouTube Islamic channel, I've actually done a lot of research, some really interesting affiliations with this channel and group or organization. We'll get into that next week. You asked for it. Talk Islam. They've gone out of their way to issue rebuttals to my videos exposing Islam. And so here we are in sort of a never-ending battle of, well, I guess kind of wits. Here's one of their more famous videos, to which I will issue a rebuttal. I think everything you need to know about Islam we can cover in this segment. Not K. Jared, roll the clip, please.
That has nothing to do with my prophet. Please just stop it. It doesn't make any sense. That's not the message he sent. That's not what he meant.
Okay, so he does this spoken word poetry thing, which is for people who can't do stand-up comedy or music. And does this rap about Islam and Muhammad to try and clarify some myths. Now, his aren't really super substantiated, so we're going to try and not only use chapter, verse, Quran, Hadith, but provide as much context as possible. So let's go through this piece by piece. Nothing to do with my prophet is
Nothing
the video.
at all.
Nothing at all. So first clip.
I know a man who forbade us from harming the innocent.
Okay, we have to pause right away. The Quran is pretty clear. This is one thing that if you hear innocent, well, that sounds nice. The Quran is clear that anyone who rejects Islam cannot be innocent. Here are just a couple of Quran verses to that effect. We have Surah 3:151, and then we have Surah 5:32. For those listening terrestrially, I can't read this all. It'll just take too long. The first one was, for that cause we decree for the children of Israel that whoever killeth a human being for another other than manslaughter or corruption of the earth, it shall be as if he has killed all mankind, and whoever saveth the life of one, it shall be as if he has saved the life for all mankind. Our messengers came unto them with clear proofs of Allah, but afterwards, lo, many of them became prodigals of the earth. Corruption in the earth can mean anything that comes into conflict with Islam. Corruption in the earth can mean anything that comes into conflict with Islam. We'll keep circling back to this, but this is important. The Quran is overwhelmingly clear. Non-Muslims who refuse to subject themselves to Islam are not innocent. The Marleys were dead to begin with, literally, because they weren't Muslim. Next clip.
This is the man who forbade us from even scaring cattle with a knife, saying you have no right to let the animal die twice. And when he was asked for advice, he'd reply, don't get angry, don't get angry, don't get angry, repeating it thrice.
We say that? Muhammad got angry a whole lot. See, Muhammad would preach this for others, but didn't really practice it. He had a sore spot even for simple teasing. For example, we can bring this up. Muhammad ordered the killing of 2 girls simply because they were singing satirical songs about him. That's where this starts. Don't portray him, don't mock him. It's worthy of death. It comes from Muhammad himself. There was also a group of rabbis who laughed at Islam and Muslims, and Muhammad not only ordered them ejected from the mosque, they were yanked out by their hair and their head and given severe beatings. So one might argue he was actually thin-skinned. Next clip.
I know a man who called to patience first, even to those who had treated him the worst. And
what? Except the exact opposite is true. As you see here by this verse, O believers, fight the unbelievers who are near to you and let them find in you a harshness and know that Allah is with the God-fearing. Again, we're going to continue to provide more and more context as we build here. Here's some more, where he specifically called for the deaths of Christians and Jews. We can bring this up on screen. Yes, all Christians and Jews. So this is important to note. We're also talking about like do we have Quran 8, do we have 839 up there? 839. So the Meccans were simply refusing Muhammad access to their city during Hajj. I don't know how we pronounce it exactly. Again, this is the argument. They say you're not Arabic, so you can't use it. So other Muslims were allowed to travel there. This is important historical context, just not as an armed group. Since Muhammad had declared war on Mecca prior to his eviction, the Meccans were also acting in defense of their religion. Since it was Muhammad's goal, he was planning on destroying their idols, establishing Islam by force. Hence, this part of the verse is so critical. Because in the verse 839, where it says, religion is only for Allah, meaning that the true justification of violence was unbelief of the opposition. The justification for violence against them was simply unbelief. Muhammad further explains in the Sirah, Allah must have no rivals. So again, we're coming back to there is no innocent non-Muslim, particularly if you resist Islam. Not just being non-Muslim, but if you say, you know what, no, I'm going to be a Buddhist, I'm going to be Christian, that is evil, you cannot be innocent. So we need to drill this into you so you understand it. More and more context. Next clip.
And he never responded to evil with evil, but rather he pardoned and forgave.
Except that's not true at all. There's only forgiveness for those who convert to Islam. Again, 929. Surah 929, we've talked about that. It is very, very clear. To go back to another point, 929. Keep that up there. People of the book here. So 929 says, fight those who believe not in Allah nor the last days, nor hold that forbidden which hath been forbidden by Allah and his messenger, nor acknowledge the religion of truth, even if they are, of the people of the book until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. This is important. People of the book refers to Christians and Jews. According to this verse, again, context, they are to be violently subjugated. With the sole justification, as you can see in this verse, context, the only justification needed is their religious status. Notably that the religion is not that of Islam. So in verse 933, I don't think we have this up, it tells Muslims that Allah has charted them to make Islam superior over all other religions. Now, here's what's important. Abrogation is something you need to understand with the Quran. So we've talked about this context. He says some nice things early on. He got increasingly mad, and he became increasingly violent. And it's clear in the Quran, Muslims are taught, if Muhammad says something later on in his life that contradicts an earlier teaching, it supersedes it. That's abrogation. And it's a central principle from Islam. So this is important because we're talking about the Christians and Jews and subjugating them in violence, because this chapter was one of the final revelations from Allah, and it set in motion really a tenacious military expansion in which Muhammad's companions, followers, managed to conquer 2/3 of the Christian world in the next 100 years, because Islam intended always, from its inception, from Muhammad, to completely dominate the world and subjugate everyone. And they were justified. People who did not submit could not be innocent, and you can do to them whatever you want. So protect the innocent. Again, no non-Muslims are innocent.
I mean, I know a man who was so caring and compassionate, who said that there is a reward in serving all things that are animate. In other words, everything that breathes, whether it be the animals, the trees, and every single human being.
Okay, but again, the Quran, we have it up here, 48:29. It's important to define the term serving and human being even. How does Muhammad instruct people to serve non-Muslims? We have Surah 8:12. Remember when the Lord inspired to the angels, I am with you, so strengthen those who have believed. I will cast terror into the hearts of those who disbelieve, so strike them upon necks and strike them from every fingertip. This is not talking about an isolated incident or historical documentation of war. These are open-ended calls that are central to the theology of Islam. And it becomes increasingly centered on this the later into the Quran you get. Again, abrogation, that's important to note.
See, I know a man who advocated for the freedom of the slaves.
Except he personally owned at least 4 female slaves. So there's that. But I guess Burqa'd sex slaves don't count. He also had slaves of the non-child bride, non-sex variety. As we see in Sahih Muslim 3901, we have this up here where he talked about slaves. And then, of course, we have more context where he bought slaves. We have Ibn Sa'id Hisham 484, where he's instructing you how to treat slaves, what needs to be done with slaves. Basically all kinds of slaves. Sex slaves, non-sex slaves, just a big slave-owning dude. That's why there's still slavery in the Islamic world.
This is the man I follow, so forgive me if this sounds unusual. But the man I know was so much more handsome, so beautiful.
I guess now's about the time when we're not supposed to mention that closeted homosexuality is rampant in Islamic countries. Childish, yes. Relevant? I would argue very much so. Next clip.
But nevertheless, I know a man who still taught us to stand up for the oppressed.
Okay, all right, people, let's get the macro. Here's where we tie it all together. I've clearly just proven, and by the way, this guy at Talk Islam is welcome to come on the program. He's done online rebuttals. I don't do online rebuttals to anyone against whom I'm not willing to debate in person. I think that's something that a coward does. He's been welcomed onto the program. He's decided, no, I'm just going to do the YouTube back and forth public urination contest. So you are welcome to come on the show. I feel that I've pretty definitively proven that no non-Muslims can be innocent according to Muhammad and Islam. Now, he talks about the oppressed. It's important to note, not Jared, I don't know how much of this you kind of knew before today. You're an educated guy, but a lot of people don't know this about Islam.
Yeah, I didn't know much.
Anyone who refuses Islamic subjugation is not only not innocent, but they are seen as an oppressor, according to Muhammad. Yes, even you watching, Mr. Tolerant, liberal atheist who thinks that you are appreciative of Islamic culture. I don't have it up here, but they talk about how the 30th sin, which is mentioned as one of the greater sins, is not helping the oppressed people. To defend the oppressed is to ward off evil, according to Islam. And not performing such a task is considered shirking a great duty, which Allah has made incumbent upon Muslims. So, anyone who is engaged in evil is an oppressor, okay? According to Islam. Anything non-Muslim or against Islam is evil. Ergo, anybody who fights for the freedom to engage in evil is an oppressor. And they can be put to death. That's the thing. Fight against oppressors, kill them. Don't hurt innocents. If you're not Muslim, you can't be innocent. If you refuse Islam, you are an oppressor. And Muhammad made it clear that they are justified in killing you. Do all Muslims follow this? No. Did Muhammad teach this? Absolutely. That's what he taught. That's how he lived his life. That's what's so important to know about Muhammad. Chapter and verse, all here. We'll have all of the references at louderwithcrowder.com. Here's the thing with Islam, too. It's sort of like the Second Amendment. We've talked about this. When taken very literally, it seems bad. I mean, kill all non-believers, but context matters. I understand that, right? You can take verses in the Bible where talking about specific instances of war, regulations for battle during that time. I get that. I understand that that's not necessarily fair to do. But here's the thing with Islam. On its surface, it's bad. When taken within context, however, it gets even worse. So Talk Islam painted, it's propaganda. They painted a picture of a man who demanded peace, humane treatment of the innocent, of animals, fought against slavery.
Loved the trees.
Big
fan of the trees.
Big fan of the foliage, and protected the oppressors. The reality is that Muhammad was a sex slave-owning, wife-beating pedophile who made it expressly clear that all non-Muslims, by definition, cannot be innocent, and that all non-Muslims who refuse to subject themselves to Islam are, by definition, oppressors, who were ordered by Muhammad to be fought and killed. Read the Quran if you're listening to this. Check the references at louderwithcrowder.com. They'll all be there. Learn the context. So learn the verses and read beyond the verses. Learn the context. Fact check me, please, and prove me where I'm wrong. I welcome it. That's my challenge to you. Western Europe, you know what? We need to fight fire with fire. Spoken word poetry, it's become my thing. Let's watch it.
Maybe the reason these people act in his name is because, unlike I say, terrorists and Muhammad are one and the same. See, maybe the reason for pipe bombs and suicide vests is to fulfill the teachings of Muhammad, just like the rest. See, the technology wasn't good back then. It took a while to get there. Like this fringy pubic hair beard that looks like my back hair. Pause. See, new camera angle for dramatic effect. This propaganda needs style, or else I'll get wrecked. Maybe the reason so many Muslims hate Christians and Jews is because Muhammad himself said they're worth less than you. See, I paint a man who spoke against slavery and lived life so serene. But Muhammad had more sex slaves and sex dungeons than the late Charlie Sheen. Oh wait, he's still alive? But I thought he had AIDS. That's not a big deal now. I guess my mistake. Muhammad made clear that no non-Muslims are innocent. So your choice is convert, pay the tax, or die. Isn't that magnificent? See, no forgiveness for those who rejected his teachings. which by the way changed all the time. Oh, what's this I'm reading? It's true, Muhammad started off peaceful, but got increasingly angry. But you need to learn about abrogation to understand the insanity. See, what that means is what Muhammad taught later has to supersede all the previous Islamic teachings, which then cease to be. When you take Muhammad's teachings and life as a whole, his story is clear. He was a wife-beating, pedophile, serial-killing bigot who was really just an overall piece of shit.
Hey, if you like this clip, it's taken from the full-length podcast. Every week you can click that box down below to watch the full free video cast or subscribe on iTunes to watch on the go. Click my face to go to louderwithcrowder.com where we write plenty of articles, columns, and upset those who are easily triggered. Or click below me. There's some other video down there. I don't know what it is yet. Not Gay Jared is going to toss. It's probably going to be something ambiguous but uncomfortable.